This is my milk-only L. reuteri cultured milk ferment that's set in only 6 hours. In this video, I made this specific batch alongside traditional French yogurt so you can see the similarities and the techniques that I used for this specific fermentation method. Some of you may be wondering about the 36-hour time recommendation for proper CFU development, bacterial doubling, and I do speak on that topic and why the 6 hours still achieves the same CFU units in the shorter time period of 6 hours in this milk-only cultured dairy product. All right, so I'm about to get ready to make both French yogurt and L. reuteri yogurts. So I have my frozen strain here that I'm going to be thawing and using as my inoculation, and then I have just regular French yogurt strain. I went away, so I don't have my active live culture, but I just wanted to show you that you can do it. So here's my little setup. I'm going to do 3 regular jars of French yogurt, and I'm going to do 1 jar and a rubber band on it for my L. reuteri yogurt strain, and I'm just going to crack open this and put it in a section. All right, so got a little section, just going to drop it in there, and then I will fill this up with heated and cooled milk. So for all yogurt and cultured milk recipes, you always have to heat the milk. No exceptions whatsoever, full stop every single time. Now the reason for this is because you need to clean your milk every single time before you inoculate it. As you do fermentation and as you culture a probiotic or any other kind of bacteria in any kind of medium, you clean your jars, you clean your pots and pans, you clean your lids, soap and water, and you need to clean the milk. You need to clean it. It is good practice if you're doing lab equivalent methodologies and techniques. It is good practice to be clean. You clean your jars, you clean your utensils, and you clean your milk. So you clean your milk by heating it and pasteurizing it, by heating it up to 180, 190 degrees Fahrenheit, so right below the boiling point. And so you are doing a more aggressive pasteurization technique. And what this does is it helps amplify your ability to have a cleaner, more consistent end product. So my temperature recently hit 180 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm just gonna let this cool down as is naturally. By the time it reaches 115 degrees Fahrenheit, I'll start manipulating it and portioning it out into my yogurt jars. So here I have my French yogurt, and I'm just gonna let this thaw as is, and I will coat the side. As this melts, I'll be able to coat the sides of my jar with my previous yogurt culture, and that will be sufficient enough in my inoculation. And I'll just divide this up. Because L. reuteri is a weaker metabolizer of lactose and glucose, it'll take longer. And so what'll happen is by our 4, 5, 6, these 3 jars will be done, and this jar will still need to keep going. Yes, French yogurt can tolerate and likes 110 degrees Fahrenheit, but it'll just be a little bit warm for this guy because they have a temperature preference range of, I think it's like 86 degrees Fahrenheit up to 115 degrees Fahrenheit. So they survive at 115 degrees Fahrenheit. So 110 degrees Fahrenheit will be just fine. And if anything, maybe I will just pay attention to the water temperature. And I'm just going to use my eyes and my brain, and I'm going to watch. And no, I think this should work in 110 degrees Fahrenheit water bath to culture my L. reuteri milk culture. This also goes into like advanced microbial culturing. When you work in like a microbiology lab, they'll have this technique that's called hot starting. And so what you do is you'll give the microbe a technically higher incubation temperature range and to kind of like wake them up, and it's called hot starting. And then as you have that hot start after a while, and you usually do it for like an hour, or maybe it depends on the microbe that you're working with, but it's hot start, and then once you wake it up, the microbe should be awakened and it should be alivened, and then you can then pull it down to its regular fermentation temperature preferred range, and then you keep going. And so maybe what I'll end up doing is like I'll have it hot start in the water bath that's 110 degrees Fahrenheit, and then what I'll do is, like, you know, this guy will have a lid on it, and I'll just do it like that in the oven just to take it out of that extra hot, and the ambient warmness should be enough for this guy to keep fermenting, but in a not too hot environment. So a microbe has a few main factors that you need to respect: preferred temperature range, preferred food source, preferred oxygen availability. Temperature range is usually body temp for L. reuteri. Food source is the BioGaia database tells us. And then preferred oxygen availability, that's obvious because it's in milk, and it can technically ferment with air, but it does better in anaerobic environments. And that's consistent for usually a lot of other lactic acid bacteria. Once you provide all of these things, you inoculate that specific microbe into its preferred temperature range, its preferred food source, and its preferred oxygen availability, you can see proof of microbial growth through a drop in pH, because it is a lactic acid bacteria, meaning it's making acid, meaning if it's making acid, it is growing and multiplying. If it does not drop in acidity, it is not metabolizing and it is not multiplying. So these are the general clues we can use to help us know and understand what we're doing. And now, milk is an awesome medium for us to ferment in because milk has a wide variety of vitamins and minerals. And the microbes are going to use vitamins and minerals for them to multiply, which is the reason why we don't just put sugar in water and let it multiply. That would lack amino acids, vitamins and minerals for the bacteria to actively multiply. You need to provide enough food so it eats the sugars, but it will also eat on those vitamins and minerals, and they will be gone from the milk. But those microbes, they will then have produced lactic acid and other post-fermentation biotics, so metabolic compounds that we can use. They say that yogurt has more B vitamins in it because of what the bacteria have produced. So they will use up vitamins, minerals, and sugars and metabolites, so lactose, galactose, and glucose, and it will produce lactic acid bacteria and other B vitamins. But if you don't have in front of it other B vitamins and other minerals and other things that it uses for it to eat, it won't eat and it won't multiply and you won't ferment. Next, milk is also a fantastic medium because when milk hits a 4.5 in pH, it hits its quote-unquote isoelectric point and it solidifies from a liquid fluid milk into a yogurt consistency. It solidifies, and that's the start, the quote-unquote, the start of what we would consider like a cheesing process, but it's solidifying. I have other videos available on my channel. Check out these to learn more about it. But that is the visual clue that we can use. What our grandmothers looked at: did my milk acidify? Did my milk solidify? If it has, it's done. And then that's how you can know and understand that you're just visually that your milk has fermented. All right, so what I've done is I have thawed my yogurt culture and I have tilted it to coat the sides of my inoculation jars. I have my sealed L. reuteri one here and have let it thaw and coat the sides of my jar as well. So now all I'm waiting for is for my milk to hit about 110, and then I'll just pour it directly into the jars and into the oven it will go. And just finger tight, just till it's closed. That's it. Same thing for my L. reuteri one. Just enough. That's it. All right, so gang's all in there. All right, so I just put it in and it's at about 111. I'm really close to 110. And what I'll do is I'll just pay attention for like the first like maybe 30 minutes, hour to if this number has any major changes. If it doesn't, then I should be pretty good. And usually what happens is that, you know, my probe is in the water, and because it's in the water, it's about the same temperature as what the jar is going to be because it'll reach equilibrium. And so, you know, I'm just going to pay attention to the number on the thermometer just to make sure that everything as it hits equilibrium is staying in the right temperature range. And so now, in like 4 to 6 hours, I'll check on my French yogurt, and I will be very careful as to not disturb my L. reuteri milk-only yogurts, and yogurt, milk culture, whatever. And I will keep going with that, but I will check on it to see what its solidification stage is at. All right, so it's been about 6 hours, and I think I did something really cool. So I think my yogurt is ready, and I think even the L. reuteri yogurt is ready. And so once again, we're going to use grandma traditional logic. If the milk has solidified, the pH has lowered to the correct amount, which means that the bacteria has metabolized the milk sugars and have made lactic acid and enough of it to solidify the milk. And that is our visual cue that it is done. But because I'm a little scientist, I have my little pH strips, and so let's test and see where we're at. All right, so we literally just hit the 6 hour mark, and my thermometer is at about 100, which is honestly technically a little low for French yogurt, but it's been out of the oven for like maybe 10-ish minutes, so I care and I don't care. What I care about is the water's warm, and is my yogurt set? Those are the things that I care about. And so let's look at our French yogurt first. My little lid. And as you can tell, there's, oh my God, that's so pretty. So this is good quality French yogurt. I'm used to making this. This is a common result and good success for me. So I am happy with that. And next, we are going to look at our L. reuteri yogurt. So this is my L. reuteri yogurt. As you can tell, I'm tipping, and the thing's not moving, guys. So I have set it. All right, so here we are. I'm not gonna lie, we are not next day, we are next week because I ate my French yogurt first. Top still looks great. Let's dig in. That top yellower layer is cultured cream, and that acts as a fat barrier protectant to the more yogurty layer below. And so, can you see how thick that is? Here, thick 6 hour L. reuteri yogurt with only milk, fermented at 110 degrees Fahrenheit. I think this looks like a pretty good job to me. Let's have a bite. Tangy, great. Can't wait to eat more. Of course, got my pH strips going. So let's give this fun guy a little test. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do one of these. And then looks like we are at a 4.0 in pH. So good to go. All right, so now that we've taken the time to look at my 6 hour milk ferment L. reuteri recipe technique, I do want to touch on the 36 hour conversation that has been popularized online. The reason for, and I'm going to be very general about this, the reason for this specific idea is that people are aiming for a specific CFU count in their end product that they've cultured their L. reuteri in to amplify the most L. reuteri possible in their small little jar. And to talk about this in a more eloquent fashion, we have to understand the dynamics of what dairy fermentation entails. When you look at yogurts, you're going to have a specific time. French yogurt, Bulgarian yogurt, or other milk cultures are going to take about 6 hours. Just having nothing to do with L. reuteri, having nothing to do with it. It's going to take about 6 hours. And if you were to move into a fattier sense, into a cream, if you were to take raw cream, you add in some raw milk and you stir that culture, and you want to get a cultured cream, it'll take about 18, 24, 36 hours for that cream to be completely cultured because it's fattier. The fattier your dairy product, the longer it will take to reach its end goal of a specific CFU count, a specific acidity level, and a specific general idea of where is it that I'm situated for my product to be done. The amount of fat will be your indicator as to how fast it's fermenting, always. Now, one thing that you can do to influence the speed of your fermentation, regardless of your fat content, is you can add in more carbohydrates. So more sugars, more substrates, more general carbohydrates for the bacteria to eat. If I take milk and I make it skim milk, so no fat whatsoever, and I add like a tablespoon of sugar to it, that milk will culture into yogurt or another milk culture. It's just an example, in maybe 4 hours, just because there's no fat that's holding it back and there's extra carbs speeding it up. Move into whole milk, it will take maybe 6 hours because there's a slight bit of fat in the milk that's slowing it down. Now, if I took half milk, half cream, and I put it together and I made half and half, it'll take longer, even longer than regular milk, just because there's even more fat and there are less carbohydrates because cream is mainly fat. It has little carbohydrates. So when you go from milk to half and half, you're both adding fat, a slowing factor, and you're taking away a speeding up factor of less carbohydrates. So you have this double negative that is slowing it down. And then if you go into full cream and you do a cultured cream and you were to inoculate with like a tablespoon of milk, of raw milk, and you were to mix it up and you were to set it on your counter, you want it to ferment to create a cultured, tangy cream, crème fraîche in French, cultured, delicious cream. It will take you 36 to maybe 48 hours for that cream to fully ferment. And then if you want to make cultured butter out of that, you take that cream and you put it into a kind of a slightly cooler environment and you churn it and you keep agitating it, and then you'll get that separation and you will get a cultured butter from that, and you can salt it then afterwards. But I highly encourage, if you're interested in the speed and you want to understand the science, if you want to understand the science and arts of dairy fermentation, I highly encourage you to be a scientist. Go into your kitchen and make skim milk yogurt, make whole milk yogurt, make cultured cream, and make cultured butter. You will, with the experience of doing this, because for me, one of the main problems of people doing the L. reuteri cultured dairy product, it's not that they're doing it wrong, it's that they don't have extra context of having experience fermenting other dairy foods, or they've never made cheese, if you had the context of, I've made skim milk yogurt and it fermented and set in 4 hours, and I've made cultured cream and that has set and fermented in 36 hours, the idea of more fat means more time to the end product, which means this is the time it takes for me to get to my goal CFU units. This is also why when you go into a lab, a microbiology lab, and you have those petri dishes where you are plating for bacteria, that petri dish is not going to have any fat in it whatsoever because that slows it down. It's going to be a pure substrate source for the bacteria, your microbe, to proliferate and get a culture from that plate count. Adding fat slows it down. Adding fat slows down the time it takes for you to get to your goal CFU unit. And so, yes, it would require 36 hours. If you're using, cream, it would take 36 hours for you to get to that endpoint just because the amount of slowing factors you have. It will take less time if you have full milk, just milk, because there are less slowing factors. And it's not pointing fingers. It's not an argument. It's just fermentation. And if you are interested in doing more fermentation, it's a beautiful art. It is slow food, and it is what brings us back down to earth with being connected with the foods that we are consuming and that we are developing a relationship with. If you want to learn how to make, traditional yogurt, there are a ton of resources online and a ton of books that are available for you to learn how to make yogurt, but then cultured cream and then cultured butter. And you open up the world to cheeses. And cheeses, that's the fattiest one. And those are aged for 18 months, a year, 2 years. This is a 3-year cheddar. The fattier it is, the longer it takes. And cheeses are going to have similar CFU counts to yogurts. Just because cheese in the aging process, it's going to be different microbes, of course. That's because that's what fermentation is. Cheese is going to have similar microbe counts to yogurt, but the time it takes for you to get to that end goal, this one has just been slowed down so much just because of the pure fat content. And then you can even go into sausage making. The fattier the sausage, the longer it takes for it to age in that, I have in mind that like Italian cave where you have those cured meats hanging, and it takes years. But if you're going to ferment something that has little fat content, it won't take you as long. And so that's my reasoning as to why it is a valid idea to take regular whole milk, inoculate it with a probiotic, and let it ferment for 6 hours. Of course, there is lab testing that should be done, and the reasons why I'm choosing to do this type of methodology with this specific ferment. So there's that. I hope this is helpful. And so this is my reasoning for why a 6-hour fermentation time is appropriate for this type of probiotic. All right, I hope this was a helpful video, and I hope it helped you both learn about culturing probiotics, but also culturing dairy, and helped you open up your perspective about the dynamics of dairy fermenting, what it is between culturing pure milk or half and half to like a full fat cream. More fat takes longer. And it's just fermentation. That's all it is. It's slow food. That's what fermentation is. It's slow food. I want to thank you so much for watching this video. Once again, my name is Matthew Cress of Cress Dietetics, and thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.